ran right in these doors, ran right down across in this fest. And then that's the first log they were this they went out to they went our bringer book they went says log in there log
the hell is going on?
Log in the cab along here. And then it's all we not then on the circle and then work in that's the next log I work in the way
do I always flail my arms like that when I talk? So Tenet tells a story of a government operative trying to discover the origins of weapons that exist outside of our timeline. Well, the day is finally here, everybody. Christopher Nolan's newest film, Tenet, is upon us, and for a lot of us out there, is the first major movie that we have gone back to the theaters to see. I got a chance to check out The New Mutants, so that was the first one for me, but for many people, they skipped that one, held their money and their risk for Tenet. This is easily one of my most anticipated films of the year. I love Christopher Nolan as a director and as a storyteller. Don't necessarily think everything that he does is perfect, but I always appreciate seeing what he's going to bring, what new thing he's going to give us, what new concept he's going after. And he is a director whose name on the poster is all I need to see for me to get my ass into the seat. So I've been hyping this up, trying to go through all of his movies, reviewing all of them. I'm too shy of completing that review series. Tenet came a little sooner than I thought, so we still have Interstellar, still have Dunkirk. I'll get those done later on this week. But Tenet, I've been building myself up to. I've went in blind. I did not watch any trailers. I did not watch any previews. I didn't read or watch any reviews, which is typically what I do when I review a film anyway. And I really didn't even know what the plot with this movie was. I knew the cast, I knew Christopher Nolan directed it, and I knew that there was going to be some kind of manipulation of time. And that's about all I knew. So walking into Tenet, finally, after so many delays, so much anticipation, so much hype, did Tenet deliver? Is this the movie of the year thus far? Not a whole lot of competition. And is this another instant Nolan classic? Well, oddly enough, I cannot answer that in this review. For the first time ever, I have to put a little bit of an asterisk in front of everything I'm about to say and say that I honestly don't think that this movie is capable of being accurately or honestly reviewed with only one viewing. So for all intents and purposes, if it's gonna make it easier for you, this, you can just call it a first impressions video more than an actual review, because this movie is so intricate, so complex, so multi-layered, and has so many things going on and that is still left to be discovered for multiple viewings that I really don't know how accurate first viewing thoughts are going to be for a review. Generally, it's more than enough. This movie, I don't think it is. And also, no worries, I'm not gonna go over any spoilers. I don't know how long this review is gonna be, so even if it's a 30-minute review, not gonna go into any spoilers, so you're safe. With that being said, the positives of Tenet. The first thing, which goes along with most of modern Nolan films, is that the concept that he's going after is very crazy to check out as far as how he is bringing it to screen. It's very interesting, it's unique, it's impressive, it's mesmerizing at times. It's unlike anything you've ever seen. It's just like the last couple of movies that he's done as far as like Interstellar and Inception, one of my favorites, where he brings this concept, this idea that he wants to bring to life in his story and does something with film that has never been done before. Tenet is another one of those movies. Very high concept, very interesting ideas that he wants to bring. On its surface, spy movie. Dude wants to find the bad guy, find this object, and then you have Christopher Nolan bring that story to life with time-bending aspects and things going in reverse, and it's unlike anything that you've ever seen before, especially a spy movie. This is a spy movie like no other. And it's great to see how he, as a director, as a filmmaker, visualizes all of these little concepts that he wants to bring, as far as, you know, filming things and playing it in reverse in some aspects, where even have scenes where some things in the scene are moving backwards very clearly, but the rest of it is moving forward, and just kind of, as a film buff, wondering how the hell they pulled that off. You have fight scenes where one person's going forward in time, the other person's going backward in time, which is a very unique concept and a very unique visual spectacle to see a fight scene like that. You've got battle scenes where half the people are going forward, half the people are going backward, and some things are crossing over, and it's very hard to describe without getting specific about plot details or getting, you know, spoilery, but there's some very weird, wacky, crazy shit going on in Tenet, and there's no other filmmaker that could have brought it to life quite like Christopher Nolan.
Time travel. No. Inversion.
Name it and pull the trigger. You're shooting the bullet. You're catching it.
And going along with that, there are a lot of sequences in this movie. It's got 2.5 hours to entertain you with, so there's at least 5 or 6 different sequences that are very entertaining, that are epic, that are high scale, that are, meriting that theater experience. I understand why Christopher Nolan and the studio was very adamant about this needs to be a theater experience, aside from one other thing that we'll talk about later. But visually, when you get into these fight scenes, these battle scenes, these car chase scenes, these shootouts and everything, they're large scale, they're beautifully shot, they're very well choreographed, they're entertaining as hell to watch, and whenever you go to the movie theaters, especially after so long of not being able to go to the movie theaters, to see a movie like this, you're like, this is why this experience can never be recreated at home. Going along with what you would typically expect from a Nolan film, there's a lot of really good performances in here. A very good cast as well. So you got Robert Pattinson, the dude who's in line to be the next Batman, and we're all very excited for that, at least I am. And he is one of the more entertaining characters in this movie, one of the better performances. He's kind of like the sly guy, he's the one who's smiling and kind of cracking jokes and has a little bit of that suave charm to him, which, is very welcome in a movie like this, where they're definitely taking some inspiration from James Bond and that kind of spy thriller action type thing. And he's the type of guy in this character, he's the type of character that you would want to go have a beer with. That's the best way to describe him. You look at him, you see his performance, you see the character, and you're like, I like you. I don't think I would like you if you were real. You have Kenneth Branagh playing the main antagonist in this movie, and he's a guy that I never quite know what to expect, because he's a director, he's done a lot of really good movies that are not so good, but he's always got like this Shakespearean kind of grandeur to whatever he does, and then you see him do something as far as acting like Wild Wild West, and then movies like this, and he's just got all the different spectrums covered. Luckily, under the direction of Nolan, he's very good in this. He might be the standout performance. He's intimidating, he's got that gravitas whenever he's trying to be that scenery-chewing villain, and I think it works really well. Whenever you have a subgenre like this that's going for a lot of the same things that we have seen in other spy thrillers, spy action movies, one of the things that always tends to stand out the most as a good or a bad in those movies is a villain, and I think as a villain, Kenneth Branagh brought it.
How would you like to die?
Old.
You chose the wrong profession.
And then you have his wife, played by Elizabeth Debicki, I believe her name is. And I've only seen her a couple of times. I believe she was in Widows and the Night Manager little miniseries. And she's always done very good in anything that I've seen her in, and she's very good here. For all intents and purposes, she's kind of like your emotional weight in this movie. She's kind of your anchor. She's the character that you get into, you understand her motivations, you understand what's driving her, you see what her end goal is, you feel for her, you want her to reach that goal. So even kind of extended by the main protagonist, John David Washington, and his ties to her and wanting to get her safe and wanting to get her to that main goal, she's the one that motivates you as far as characters, and the one that ties you to the characters because of her whole peril with her husband and her peril in the situation, trying to get out, trying to get her son out. You feel for her, and with something I'm going to elaborate on, when you have John David Washington, that aside from just the grand scheme of things, we need to save the world from this thing that's about to happen, you really invest yourself in his mission to help her. And then of course we got to talk about the technical aspects. I've already talked about the action scenes and the concept and everything, but again, like you would expect from a Nolan film, no matter how much you like it or hate it, the dude knows where to point the camera, he knows how to move the camera, he knows how to complement his movie with an awesome score, which Hans Zimmer did not do this time, his typical collaborator, and it still feels like a typical Nolan score, which is a very good compliment. The way that he shoots a lot of these scenes, the way that he moves the camera around, how he frames some of these fight scenes, even some of the more small scale shots, like whenever they're on the water and you just, you get some of those classic James Bond type things where dudes are driving speedboats and they're just chilling out, kind of doing the I'm the protagonist kind of thing. That stuff works well because it's shot well. He's just that type of filmmaker. He can deliver one of the best looking films, if not the best looking film of the year, every single time that he comes to bat, like it's easy, like it's just something that he just wakes up in the morning and just pisses excellence. He's that type of director, and it carries through over into Tenet. Moving on to mixed aspects, the main one for me is John David Washington. Now, I've seen this guy twice. I've seen him in BlacKkKlansman. I've seen him here. I don't know if he's done more beyond that, but I'm not sure if it's the writing, the way that his character is directed to be, or if it's just him as an actor. But he is so devoid of personality in this movie, and his character is personality, some pop is something that it desperately needs, in my opinion. There was so many times throughout this movie to where he just felt emotionless. He felt robotic. I mean, he can handle things as far as what the movie requires, like action scenes. Obviously, he's very good with that. There's some scenes where, like one of the opening scenes where he has to convey that he's in a lot of pain and shock and everything like that. He delivers those scenes very well. But as far as just delivering a memorable character, and especially a character that the entire movie focuses around, I just don't think that he was that good in here. He's serviceable. He's not bad. He's not like embarrassing himself. But from what I typically expect from Nolan movies, from what I typically expect from a Nolan character, he's one of my least interesting, least favorite Nolan characters that I've ever seen. You have this guy, and he's in this larger-than-life situation. He's getting delivered all this wild, mind-blowing, world-changing information left and right throughout this movie, and you never really feel like he's reacting to it. Like, there's so many dialogue scenes that are so quick as well, to where this person's given information, and he has to react to it and keep the conversation going, and it's all just so monotone. Person A, camera A, delivers information, and then they go to John David Washington, blah, 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 blah. And it just never goes high or low. You never really feel like he's excited or scared or, tense or happy or nothing. He's just kind of like one emotion throughout the entire movie. And it doesn't really help that his character is written in a way to where there's not really an emotional drive. There's not really a backstory. There's not really any development that we get to latch on or to understand or to dive into his character. And when you have a performance that just complements that to where there's not really anything about him that pops, it makes it a little bit rough to follow him throughout this story. And while I said I have not watched or read any reviews, didn't look at any of the early reactions, there was a headline that I remember sliding past on Twitter when all the early reactions were coming out. And it said something along the lines of, Tenet is all of the greatest things and all of the worst things about Christopher Nolan in one movie. And I remember scrolling past that and not knowing what the hell that meant. Like, that doesn't make any sense. That's a weird summarization of your review. And after seeing Tenet, I have to be honest, that is probably the best way to describe this movie. So now moving into the negatives. And my God, I have a feeling I'm gonna be dodging some bullets. This is by far one of the most convoluted, confusing, and difficult to follow movies that I have ever seen in my life.
Well, I've seen too much. Well, we'll try and keep up.
People, I am somebody that likes complexity in movies and in stories and in plot. I like when a movie goes there and has confidence in its audience and challenges its audience and merits multiple viewings to unlock all the little secrets and to fully grasp what is going on here. I enjoy that type of thing. I'm typically the guy in the room when a movie like Inception comes out and you get the average Joe Blow that walks out of it, who's a casual moviegoer that sees maybe 5 new movies a year, that walks out and says, that was a little confusing and convoluted, and I never really knew what was what, and this didn't make sense to me. I'm typically the guy in the room that goes, oh, well, it makes sense. If you look at it this way, if you paid attention to what this little line of dialogue said, or if you saw this thing coming through, or the thematic element going underneath the story kind of brings it all together. I'm typically that guy. I didn't know what the fuck was going on in this movie for damn near the entire runtime. Start to finish. This is a movie that starts immediately. Doesn't even give you a chance to catch your breath. It just jumps you right into the story. And the main concept, the main meat of the story of the movie, of the plot, doesn't really get going until about an hour into it. But even the first hour of the movie, when you have the main character that's getting established and introduced, and then you have to kind of go along the typical spy fashion where he gets this mission or this objective, and we have to go talk to this person to get information about this person so that they can give information about this place where we're going to find this item that's going to track us to this person, and then we got to go back to this person because this person was lying. You have that typical kind of cliche setup as far as how spy movies go. But it moves so quickly and it takes absolutely zero breaths about moving through all these different plot elements that even just the expositional introduction to the plot had me scratching my head to where I couldn't figure out what this dude's motivation was. Okay, so he's doing, oh, never mind, we're moving past that. Okay, so now he's joining this organization. Okay, so what's this organization? Oh, fuck, okay, we move on past that. So now he's gotta go talk to this person because he's gotta find out what exactly, he's done talking to her, all right, now we're over here. And the movie just keeps going like this. Then whenever the whole concept that he's trying to bring to life, the big gimmick of this movie with this time reversion where things are moving backwards and, you know, congruent with our timeline, things are kind of crossing back and forth, and, you know, there's a lot of visualizations of that. Once you get that going, it's 5 times harder to figure out what's going on, because not only are you trying to play catch up with all this shit that you couldn't figure out before, at least I couldn't, then you have this whole thing where now 2 congruent timelines are going back and forth in opposite directions, and you now have to keep track of the events and the repercussions of both of these simultaneously while figuring out all of this. All the while the movie's introducing more questions, more concepts, more rules, more little holes that you have to try to fill in and figure out. And the whole time, I'm just sitting there getting progressively more pissed that I'm not able to enjoy the movie or enjoy the plot because I'm still trying to figure out what the fuck is happening.
What the hell happened here?
Hasn't happened yet.
Typically movies that go for like a convoluted type of storytelling that knows that it's going to kind of confuse viewers or take a little bit of time for them to catch on, tries to take a bit of a pit stop every now and then so that its viewers can catch their breath, get winded a little bit, and then figure out what's going on, and then go back forward with the plot as the movie continues. It's like going after a bus, where you go and you might miss the bus or it takes off without you, and then you run up and down the street, chasing down the bus, finally it hits another stop, or it hits a red light, you've caught the bus, now you can get on and enjoy the ride. Tenet is that same situation, but a fucking 747. And you miss that bitch, it is gone and it is never coming back for you. For me, trying to keep up and understand and figure out the plot of this movie was like if somebody handed me a calculus problem in the middle of a war zone, and just as I lifted up to try to read it and solve this bitch, 2 bullets fly through the paper and take out half of whatever was written on it. That was my experience with Tenet. This is a movie that absolutely requires multiple viewings. I don't even think 2 viewings is gonna do it. There might be 3 or 4 viewings on this thing to 100% grasp all the different things that are going on. And I might be giving the movie more credit than that. It might take more. There's gonna be some people that are gonna look at this, they're gonna love all the confusion, they're gonna love this giant Rubik's Cube of a plot, and they're gonna have a blast revisiting it over the years, trying to figure things out, or watching it 3 or 4 times in a weekend if you're an ultra Nolan fan. But I got a feeling that a lot of people that are just casual movie fans, or maybe like Nolan but don't love everything that he does, and especially just Joe Blow or grandma that just goes to the theater maybe once or twice a year, is gonna watch this movie, is gonna be frustrated as hell by it, and is not going to be willing or interested in putting in the work that it's going to take to figure this fucking plot out. And that just comes down to who you are as a movie fan and what your interest is in this type of concept movie. Are you somebody that wants to have an enjoyable experience with the first viewing and grasp 95% of what's going on, and maybe at most have a few more things to uncover over repeat viewings over the years? Or are you somebody that just falls in love with that type of concept to where you walk into a movie and you get 2/3 of a jigsaw puzzle and the other third of the pieces you're just gonna have to find over the next couple of years when you rewatch it? Know yourself and you'll know where you've landed in that little argument. Me personally, I usually don't hate the concept of going after more ideas and rewatching things and kind of grasping more each time. But with that being said, I'm somebody that I do like to understand what's going on in the movie my first time watching it. I do like to walk out of the theater pretty much with a full understanding of what the movie was going for, and maybe just have a couple lingering questions that I'm excited to go back and revisit to try to solve those. Last time that I was so conflicted with the movie after my first viewing was Star Wars The Last Jedi, where I walked out and I went, there's no way that that movie was not completely awesome, so something must be off. I need to watch it a second time before I review it. And I immediately went and watched it the second time the next day and then did my review. Tenet, I feel the exact same way. I'm like, I love Nolan. This seems like a concept that I can get behind. This is the type of movie that I usually gush over. There's no possible way that it was this unenjoyable for me. And it's to the point where I know that I should watch it a second or a third time before giving my full thoughts, but my enjoyment was so low because of the confusion that I really don't have any interest in going and spending another 2.5 hours with this film. With all that being said, that is my main gripe. There are a couple other things that I had issues with. One of which kind of complements that. It's one of the reasons why this movie was a little difficult to follow. Nolan is suddenly starting to develop this weird habit to where he comes out with the movie and you go to see it and there's some really strange choices as far as the audio mixing. First time it happened was with The Dark Knight Rises. Dark Knight Rises has this little opening that they show in IMAX, get everybody hyped and excited, and then social media goes blast and everybody's like, what the hell was Bane saying? I have no idea what the dialogue was, he was so low in the mix. And unfortunately in that situation, Nolan overcorrected because you try to watch the 4K Blu-ray like I did for my review, and you get Batman and he's like, I haven't given them everything, not yet. And then you get to Bane and he's like, you fight like a younger man. Then there was a little bit of the same issue with Interstellar to where the sound effects and especially the score, which Nolan loves to showcase his scores, usually for good reason because he picks some damn good scores. He puts that so high in the mix that some of the dialogue is a little bit muffled at times. Then you get to this movie. And I'm assuming some of the scenes that I couldn't understand were very integral to understanding the plot. You have some sequences to where characters are giving dialogue, and a lot of the dialogue in this movie is expositional and explanatory towards the plot or the rules or where we're going or this is how this is going to work or this is the plan, this is the plot. There was plenty of times, at least 4 or 5, to where the audio for the dialogue was so low in the mix that I either struggled to figure out what they were saying, or like one sequence towards the end of the film between Kenneth Branagh and John David Washington in a very integral scene, I couldn't understand a single word either of them were saying. That entire scene escaped me. I was like, and both of them, like Kenneth Branagh's giving like this really kind of serious, stoic dialogue to John David, and John David's kind of, you know, exasperating his voice because there's all this crazy shit going on at the same time, and neither one of them are audible for me. That is a problem. That's a problem in general for a movie when you can't hear the audio, but when you have a movie that's so plot heavy like this, and you have a lot of very important integral dialogue that is crucial to the understanding of the plot, and some of it's inaudible, big mistake. And my final negative, I kind of touched on it a little bit with John David Washington, but it's kind of an overall issue with this movie. I always felt like I couldn't really latch into the characters. Aside from like Elizabeth Debicki, I couldn't really latch into these characters' motivations for why they're in this situation, why they are in this plot. Now, some movies can get away with that. Some movies, the action spectacle, the story can take charge, and you can forgive having some characters that feel like they're a little bit distant to you being able to gravitate towards them and really kind of hone in on their motivations. The problem with this movie is that you really have 3 integral pieces to the storytelling here. You have the story itself, the plot, you have the characters, and then you have the spectacle and the concept that he's going for with all this time reversion. And for me, only the third one, the concept, the spectacle, was really firing on all cylinders here. So, and they're in that level of importance as far as I'm concerned with my enjoyment of a movie. Story's first. That's the most important. Characters are second. They should be there just as important, but they should be there to serve the story, not the other way around. And then you have the spectacle, the concept, the new stuff that you're going to bring that's going to elevate the story and the characters. So when you're only firing on one cylinder, and I'm really struggling to understand the story, your backup for me is if I have great characters that I at least am invested in their journey, I'm invested in their motivations, and I just didn't get that here. You have good guys that are doing good guy shit because they're good guys. That's not enough for me. And the funny thing is, apparently this is a criticism that Nolan gets a lot. I was kind of listening to some other reviews after I did like Inception and The Prestige and some other movies, just kind of hearing what the general consensus was after I dropped my review and started getting comments. And even just in the comment section alone, like when I dropped Inception, I got 1 or 2 comments that were like, why do you praise this movie so much? The characters are so wooden and one note and you don't have any emotional ties to them. And I'm like, hard disagree. I'm that guy when it comes to this movie. So that's pretty much all of my thoughts on Tenet, guys. Now, before I wrap this up, there is one thing that I wanted to say, which sucks because I never like putting this kind of thing in a review, but I feel like it's important to call people in their bullshit once in a while. So it's been out for about 24 hours at this point by the time that this review is going to drop. And I have already seen a lot of fandom toxicity all over the internet, just like you would typically expect with a movie like this. You get prestigious director that's delivering a very hyped up film to divisive results. And you always get these two camps that form. You get Camp A that absolutely loves it, thinks it's brilliant, thinks it lives up to every bit of the hype. And then you have Camp B that was disappointed in it or didn't like it or it didn't work for them or it's just not their cup of tea. And these two camps, when you have toxic fandom people that don't know how the fuck to be an adult, just go at each other the entire time. Instead of having a conversation about why didn't you like it? What did work for you? What would you have expected? What would have made it better for you? Why was it so genius to you? What were you expecting? Instead of having those conversations, which is the point of why us as film fans like to be film fans. But instead of that, you get Camp A that thinks that it's great, it's brilliant, it's genius, and anybody that doesn't agree with that, you're an idiot, you're incompetent, you're a lower level film fan than me, you're not up to my standards, and all of your movie taste is suddenly called into question. Well, you should just go watch some Marvel films, because that's more your speed. Then you got Team B that doesn't care for it, and anybody that doesn't agree with them is a blind fanboy or just believes the hype or just goes with the popular opinion and they don't know what the fuck they're talking about. I'm gonna tell you something, both you camps, you're both fucking idiots. You're both what's wrong with fandom and you're both jackasses. You both make movie fandom suffer all around. So quit being jackasses, quit being little children, get along, understand that we all have different opinions. We don't have to agree on everything. People are pretty goddamn different. And for a change, why don't we actually celebrate the beauty of being a film fan and have a conversation with each other? Let's start down below in the comment section and have a conversation right now. Cool? Cool. So all in all, guys, I really don't know how I feel about this film. Like I said, I don't really think that I can give an accurate, set in stone review for this movie until I've seen it a couple of times, until I've given it a fair chance to weave all these plot details together and try to decipher what is going on. But as far as my first impressions, I enjoyed the spectacle. I enjoyed the action scenes and the stuff that Nolan typically does well. He does well here as far as bringing everything to life with gorgeous shots, an awesome score, very unique, interesting directions as far as fight scenes, battle scenes, car chases, giving you things that you've seen 100 times in a way that you have never seen it before. Thought all that was great. Really lost with the story, really did not enjoy myself trying to figure out what's going on and just struggling to catch up to this movie for 2.5 hours, which is a grueling runtime to not be up to par with the movie. Thought that John David Washington's performance could have been better, or the writing could have been better for a protagonist. And overall, I'm just kind of left with a big question mark. Like, I'm disappointed that I did not walk out loving it, but I don't know if this movie has more in store for me or if this is just going to be what my opinion is. It's not for me. We'll see. Time will tell. So if you're a fan of Nolan and you've been really excited about checking out Tenet, all I can tell you is to temper your expectations. And while I definitely recommend checking it out in theater for the spectacle alone and being able to purge yourself of all of the distractions that's going to make this a miserable viewing experience, as far as my enjoyment goes, I'm gonna have to tell you to stream it. So what do you guys think of Tenet? Are you a fan of this movie? Were you walking out of it just in awe of how crazy and awesome and mind-blowing this thing was? Or did you walk out with a headache trying to find Advil for all of the plot details that you were struggling to figure out the entire time? Or did you find out that you were somewhere in the middle, like me, where you liked some things, you were just a little bit frustrated with how convoluted and difficult to understand this movie was? That's okay too. Let me know your thoughts down below. Are you gonna see it a second time? Are you gonna see it a third time? Is this a one and done for you? What's your favorite Nolan film? Are you excited for my thoughts on Interstellar and Dunkirk? And also, guys, keep your eyes peeled because tomorrow at 4:30 EST, I believe, either 4:30 or 5, we'll see how it goes, I'm going to be over on Sean Chandler Talks About channel. Me, Sean, and his co-host Griffin for his podcast are going to be talking full spoilers for Tenet. So come over there, check out the conversation, and join the conversation. Keep your eyes peeled. So like and share this video, guys. Hit that subscribe button if you're not already a subscriber. You can check out all those past Nolan reviews, as well as the 2 that I got coming, as well as all the other awesome content on this channel that you will enjoy. And as always, remember, opinions are like assholes, but that doesn't mean that you have to be.